Good morning and welcome to a very autumnal Bedford Purlieus Wood. We're just off the entrance to Bedford Purlieus Wood. As you're coming along the A47, about a mile west of Wansford, you just turn off there, park up, and you're in the woods basically. The reason I'm here, I did a video a few years ago about Kings Cliffe Airfield. This is the other half of Kings Airfield. In effect, it's not the airfield itself, it's where the personnel who operated from Kings Cliffe were dispersed to, because it was always considered that the personnel were more important than the buildings and the aircraft on the airfield itself. So you had to get them off that airfield quickly as soon as their missions were completed, because it was always assumed the airfield would be bombed and you didn't want to lose your personnel. So you basically hid them in the woods, and that was true of most airfields around the UK at the time, and Bedford Purlieus was right next to the airfield, so it was perfect to set up multiple what were known as dispersed sites, because that's what they were. And you scattered little pods of air personnel around the woods, and today is about trying to find what's left. I know there's nothing significant left, there's no buildings. But I used to wander around here about 20 odd years ago, and I used to find footings, foundations, call them what you will, and it aroused my interest as to what they were, and I discovered it was the dispersed sites from Kings Cliffe. And I started to find, I brought one with me, I started to find bottles and various other objects. This one is marked. You can't probably see this at the bottom of the bottle. It says W.H. Smith, the brewery in Oundle, very popular at the time. But the thing that really caught my eye was, again, I hope you can see that, there's a date stamp on the bottom of the bottle, 1942. So I knew there was something relating to wartime going on. Did a bit of research, and the rest, as they say, is history. So I'm here to see what I can find. I've got some notes, I've got some research data, I've got some Air Ministry plans, and I hope to try and make sense of each of the sites as I find them. Whether I succeed, let's go and find out. All right, we should be coming up now to Site 1. That's as glamorous a name as ever given, Site 1 through to Site 8. I think there's 8 here at Bedford Purlieus. I'm looking for, well, basically Site 1 was either side of this road, more or less where we are at now, if I've read the map correctly. But to get my bearings, I need to find the 2 air raid shelters that existed, and they would be on the right hand side. The rest of the buildings were on the left. So they kept the air raid shelters just slightly away from where the personnel would have been based. So somewhere on my right, I need to find any remains that might exist of the 2 air raid shelters. Otherwise I'm going to be lost. Can't see anything at the moment. In there, I can see, you can't see I'm sure, but I can see through there. There's some raised ground in the background. That will be it, I'm sure. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Here's one of them anyway. Still standing. I wonder if it's accessible. Gauge it off. Let's go down and have a look. There you go. Best I can do is actually pitch dark in here. I've got a little torch. It's just a storage dump. scrambled down. In fact, we're on the top of the air raid shelter now. Right, just scrambled down over the top of the shelter now to what used to be the escape hatch. So basically, if the front end was bombed, where we've just been down to, and the airmen couldn't get out, I presume with the help of a ladder they'd get out this end of the shelter. Sure, I can get round. Yeah, I think these used to be hinges. Originally there'd be a metal door on the top. It's now got a concrete slab that's been concreted on by the landowner. He don't want nobody in there. But yeah, would previously have had or originally would have had a metal lid on it. Well, that's the first of the shelters. I just need to make sure I've got my bearings right. There should be a second one somewhere up here on the right. There's another bank there. There must be, I suspect that's number 2 in here. It's pretty hard to get in there. Oh, there you go. The little brick, mini brick walls coming out either side would have had a wooden bench running along them, backing up to the sides of the air raid shelter. That's basically what people sat on. So they're original. Otherwise, it's another store unit. But that's air raid shelter number 2. Got them both. Still both surviving. Just spotted a little muntjac deer up on the left, who's just spotted me, I think. Not too bothered. There he goes, or she goes. Okay, well, I've got my bearings now. I can consult my my plans wherever I've hidden them in my back pocket, and hopefully make sense of the rest of the site if it exists still. Let's have a look. The map. I'll try and put these on screen so you can see them easier, because the writing on these is so small. It's very, very difficult to read. But I'll see if I can make some sense of it. Right, according to the Air Ministry plan, this is supposedly latrines or toilet block. However, it don't look like a toilet block to me. It looks more like a water pit or fire pit for holding reserves of water, which it still seems to be doing in the middle there. It says it's latrines. I think, yeah, I'm just looking at my Air Ministry plan. Yeah, I'm wrong actually, it is marked on here. It is actually marked on here as a water pit, and that's what it is. The latrines building would have been in there, and I can't get in there to see. Nothing too exciting anyway. Right. 2 sets of foundations in parallel here. One on the left, one on the right. I mean, all these dispersed sites were very basic. You would have quarters where people slept and hung out when they weren't out on missions, playing cards and whatever they did. Toilet blocks, shower blocks, drying rooms, that's about it. That's about it. Anything else you wanted, you had to head off to the main communal site, which we'll see later. all the buildings were temporary, that's why they're not here anymore. They're made out of wood. Sometimes they were just glorified tented buildings, but most of them had concrete foundations, particularly these, because these are marked on the map as the officers' quarters. So they'd have a solid base, but almost certainly a wooden surround. And when the site was de-requisitioned, which I think was 1951, they'd have took everything that they could. The landowner, that is, would have took everything that they could. But obviously they'd leave the foundations. And that's what you see before you. One of two parallel officers' quarters. Just up on top of one of them now. Always used to intrigue me back in the days of watching things like Time Team. Why buildings were underground? Why were they digging them up? How did they get underground? Well, you see it in action here basically, because every year the leaves fall, decays to soil, and repeat year after year after year. It's a very slow process, but if you dig around with your feet, probably about 2 inches down here. In fact, I'm struggling. Here it is. Right. That was harder than I thought. That there is the floor. We've got about 2 or 3 inches already built up. Give it another 100 years and you won't find this. It'll be gone. Just coming off the officers' quarters now. We should be banging straight into I think it's the sergeant's quarters. Bear with me. It could be better organised than this. Yeah, sergeant's quarters. There should be running left to right here, 2 of them. There it is. There it is. Just see the bricks peeping through. And there's the second one. Sergeant's quarters, which is, as I said, where they used to sleep. I'm sure it wasn't that comfortable. The 20th Fighter Group, for whom these dispersed sites were built, came from a place called March, not the March near Peterborough, but the March on the Californian coast. So it would have been quite a climactic shock to go from California to Bedford Purlieus Woods. And I don't think it would have been overly warm in these places. Just clambered up on a very small rise. I didn't think there was anything here, but there is, because I've just dug down again with my boot about 3 inches and I found a concrete base. This was the drying room according to the Air Ministry plan. Quite simply, it was where the airmen would take their uniform when it was soaking wet. And this is England, so unlike California, they'd see a lot of rain. They'd bring the stuff in here. They used to hang it on metal rails, but that's actually quite a modern setup. They'd have metal rails with hangers on, and they'd have some sort of boiler in there that would make it pretty warm inside. The building itself would have had what looked like a chimney sticking above it, so it would have been quite a spectacular building. But obviously it's all gone now. Would have been right in front of us now from down there back. Not a big building, but would have had a chimney which would have held the boiler. Yeah, and they'd have dried their outfits pretty quickly. To our right somewhere here, although I cannot see it, should be, we've done officers' quarters, we've done sergeants' quarters. This is where the good old airmen's quarters should be. think there should be two of them at least. I think it's this rise in front of us here. Again, it's all getting buried now, but yeah, down here is bricks. Very hard to see, but yeah, that's where the airmen's quarters would have been on this site. I think that was it for site one. There were a few other buildings at the back end that I wanted to see, but whether they were completely wooden structures, I don't know, but there was nothing there, or they're so well buried that there's no way and no sign to suggest there's anything left. So just going to wander down this track now, a couple of 100 yards plus to site number 2. I think that's the first of the buildings, if I can get in. I'm now standing on top of, or is left of, one of the officers' quarters building. Hard to imagine that senior personnel would be sleeping right where we're standing, but they did. See a whole lot of brickwork, but it is here. There you go. Bricks around the edge, big slab of USA Air Force concrete on top. And being officers, they had their own toilet block. Latrines, as they call them, and that's the corner of it there. That's the latrines building, officers latrines. Should be another officers quarters building next to it, and there it is. Right up against the side of the road. Just check my my map, sergeant's quarters, exactly the same layout really as site 1. 2 sergeant's quarters side by side. There should be a drawing room as well, where this red post is stuck in. Up ahead, you still just don't make it out. Very small building, but it was almost glorified woodland airing cupboard. Would sit on there. As I say, I'd love to see one. I'll put pictures up if I can find some, so you can see what a drawing room looked like. But there would have been a chimney on the back of it, which would have held the heat source for the drying process. I'm going to try and break out of here now because there are further buildings on this side. You just see them in the distance, in the centre distance. We're moving then into the airmen's quarters, So it sort of grades down from officers to sergeants to airmen, but it's all the same design. I'm going to break out because there were 3, I think, air raid shelters at Site 2, and they're on the other side of the road. So I'm going to see if they're still standing. Right. Not sure if I've gone past it or not. Seems to be whenever there's a rise in the ground, you're pretty much sure if you're on an airfield site that it's an air raid shelter. I'll prove myself wrong here. Ah! Oh, no. There you go. More of the same. There you go, pretty much the same inside, different design. As with other elements of this video, if I find out what they're called, I'll put them on the bottom of the screen. It's a different design to the others. It doesn't have the arched roof, has a square roof. Otherwise exactly the same. Oh, getting ripped to pieces here. That's air raid shelter number 2. I won't bore you and go down and look at them all. But that's the second air raid shelter on Site 2. Should be one more. There she goes. Number 3. Just check there's nothing interesting in here. And there isn't. Square roofed design again. Right at the top end now of Site 2. Nothing much to see here, but I think if I clear this away, yeah, I thought there was something here. Picket post, basically. Guard room, call it what you will. If you wanted to enter Site number 2 along the road, you'd be checked in here and out. Known as the picket post. Couldn't find it on Site 1, but this square building would have been it. Right, heading away again towards, wait for it, Site number 3. I'm not sure I've ever seen this one before, which makes me a bit jumpy because I may just completely miss it. It's on the left, and it's got to be somewhere up here. If I'm reading the map right, we should be alongside Site number 3 on the left. Everything on the left on this one. Pretty dense though, I'm not sure I'll be able to get in there. Trying to sneak around the back of this one now because I can't get in through that hedgerow. So I've come down a side track. This should get me in. An air raid shelter forward on the left. You can see it from here. the arched designs. Completely clean and empty, that one. Nothing much to see on, well, nothing more to see on these than on the previous ones. All the airmen's quarters, there's about 5 or 6 of them on this site. They just ran as a strip from left to right as we are now. You can just about see the edges of this one down here. There you go. There's the concrete base. And they basically run all the way down there. Very well buried, these are vanishing fast. But that's all they are. That's the airmen's quarters that ran down the side of Site 3. Going to head back because the officers' and sergeants' quarters are off down a side track on this one. See if there's anything there. There's the sort of escape chimney end of the air raid shelter that we just looked in. Been struggling to find anything down this little spur road that has the officers and sergeants' quarters, but found something at least. Yeah, there you go. I think that's officers' quarters rather than sergeants' quarters, but I think the design is exactly the same. I was thinking I was going down the wrong road there, but we're in the right spot. Right, going to continue down this side track because it leads me to somewhere I've definitely never been before here, and that's the women's site, WAAF site, that housed the fairer sex on here. Similar sort of setup to the other sites. There's a couple of interesting buildings that were here. I'm not saying we'll find anything by way of remains, but one of them was a hairdresser's hut, seriously. But I think it was a completely wooden structure, so I don't expect to find anything there. I think there's a decontamination building here. Don't know why they had one, but the other sites didn't, but it's slightly different, and I've never been here before. I hope I can get through to it. I know it's somewhere in this direction, so yeah, it could be interesting. Oh, at last, I've been wandering through these woods. There's no path. The path that shows on the air ministry plan has just been overgrown, it's gone. And it's not marked either, but I've just grabbed my bearings and headed off where I think I needed to head, and I bumped into what I believe was one of the air women's quarters buildings. And there should be 3 of these on one side of a path and 3 of them on another side of a path. Yeah, nothing much to see, but just proves we're on the right spot, I believe. Yeah, I was just looking for the other one across the way. It is there. There you go. Even exposed the step on these. I know they all had steps at one end. I used to find them before so many leaves have come down 20 years ago. You could see these. Yeah, step up into the building, which would be wooden. There'd be a door in front of us now, and then the quarters would head down there. I don't think they had anything more luxurious than the men. Same stock quarters. And as I say, there was 3 of them that ran down here. I think we're probably on the middle one, possibly. There's another one in front of us. There were 6 in total. Yeah, we're up on the second one, I think, or third one. I don't see any more in the distance. I think this is the third one of the 6. 3 one side of the path, 3 the other. It's unusual to actually find a path that is, I think it's concreted. I'm still on the women's quarters. There used to be a big building on my left here, which I'm completely confused as to what it was, even with the air ministry plans. If I can find it, I'll tell you more about it. It should be over on the left. Let's go and see what's left. There's the edge of it. Clamber up or in. It's hard to believe actually that you're inside what was a building when you see trees, big trees that would have been inside 80 years ago. Crazy. You see a lot of these as well. I don't know what they are. No idea, I don't want to guess and make a fool of myself. The shape is the same, sort of square at the left hand end, rounded edges at the right. Again, if I find out what they are, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. There's quite a lot of debris here, it's unusual for these sites. All mossed over, but yeah, interesting. Quite a lot of metal work as well. Right, what is it? Well, I have my air ministry plan in front of me, and it says, and I quote, if I can find it, yeah, Institute. Now, I don't know what an institute is. Again, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. I used to think it was the dining room, so I don't think they'd have their own dining rooms. Maybe they did. It says Institute, but then open brackets, used as station headquarters, close brackets, station headquarters. Well, if that means what it sounds like it means, it's a very important building. Not quite sure why it would be here, but yeah, we're still inside the building. As I say, it was a big building, and it does have the shape of dining rooms I've seen elsewhere, but I don't know. I can't swear what it actually was, apart from what's written on the air ministry plans. Station headquarters, no less. Right, I'm coming off the, well, I'm still on the edge of the women's site. I'm now going to head down to, I wasn't sure I was going to do this, but I'm going to head down into the big communal site at the bottom of Bedford Purlieus Woods. I'm never quite sure how private it actually is, but I'm going to act stupid and try and walk straight through the middle of it. It's a spectacular site. Always sends shivers down my spine when I see it, because a lot of the buildings are still there because they're used by small businesses. There's some that are just still there, but yeah, a lot of them are still used by small businesses, which means it preserves the building, which is great. I mean, I was lucky to be here 20 years ago, and the then site owner took me around and showed me places, and there's some fantastic buildings there. As I say, they've all been done up. Most of them have been done up, as I say, not all of them. Painted strange colours and whatever, but they're still there. So I'm gonna act stupid and walk straight through the middle of it. I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to speak to you about, but you'll be able to see what's there, and I'll do what I can. I'll probably get stopped before I get there, but we'll have a look. What on earth is that? Another small building here, but no idea what, because I've lost all my bearings now. I need to find something I can identify. A lot of fences around, so it's a struggle to get where I want to get to. LBC Full Press. London Brick Company, local brick. Another one. Should be able to work out what these are. I'll have another look at my plan in a moment. Right. The one we just looked at back in the trees is marked as water tower. So there clearly used to be a water tower there. Yeah, that's unusual. But I'm fairly confident from the plan that's what it was, which makes this the rather glamorously entitled Bucket Emptying Bay. Yeah. As I say, I'll put up any details I can find about what a bucket emptying bay is, unless it's obvious. At least I know where I am now. Well, those two buildings make this one the Gas Defence Centre, which I know little about, but I know from the angle it's sited that's what it is. Yeah, it would run diagonally over in that direction. Gas Defence Centre. Okay, I've just got out of those woods and I'm going to head down through the communal centre now. I've just been warned by a lady walking with a dog that it is private, but I'm still going to go and hopefully get away with it. I'm not going to be doing any talking, I don't think, but I'll try and grab what footage I can before I leave. And yeah, fingers crossed I can get through. Just look at my map to make sure I'm going the right way, but we'll give it a go. These buildings on the right are all original wartime buildings. Been tarted up a bit, but they're very original. Institute building. Buildings. The building up ahead in white is the best building on the site. Was the gymnasium, cinema and chapel, and on the left hand side of the building, if we see it in a mo, is where the projector for the cinema was. I have got some pictures somewhere of this one, which I'll put up. Fantastic building. Brilliant. This is at one of the entrances to the airfield, where we started our last video. I've always been fascinated by this gate. It always looks like it dates back. I don't know what the number 1 refers to. I mean, there was nothing here, but the gate could have been taken from somewhere else. It just looks that sort of age. Maybe not, maybe my imagination, but it always fascinates me. Just looking over the gate now. We're actually on the airfield side of the Kings Cliffe to Wansford Road now, which I don't really want to travel up here, but there used to be a couple of dispersed sites up here. Hardly very dispersed, I think sites 7 and 8, but I'm pretty convinced, having checked these before, they were just tented, completely tented. There's no foundations, no nothing, so I'm not going to wander up there and waste any time. There is absolutely nothing to see, but just for completeness, sites 7 and 8 were somewhere up in the distance, slightly to our right, but seemingly not in woodland. We're just adjacent to the main communal site here. This is marked on the Air Ministry plan as the AMWD site, which I'm told stands for Air Ministry Works Department, and these are the people that basically built all of those dispersed sites and presumably provided maintenance, and they were just sited here and on call for whatever was needed. It doesn't appear to be a whole lot here. There's some debris there just to prove they were here, and that is it. Right, we've walked right down to the end of Bedford Purlieus Wood on the eastern side, and we're coming into site number 5, which was the first one I ever found. Really just set my interest off, really. I've now got to remember where it was. It's on the left here somewhere. We'll just dive in and have a look around, because I can't remember exactly how to get in. As you can see, we're actually about to stand on a building here, which was one of the airmen's quarters on this site. Usual mix of buildings, really. There's a couple of strange anomalies on here, and there used to be some good air raid shelters. I don't know whether they're going to be barred up like the others. We'll take a look. Moss covered stones here, bricks, whatever, mixture. Marked on the map as a drawing room again. Which is probably about right. These are just piles of debris from buildings that were here. I'm pretty sure, even though they're covered with grass, I remember there being piles and piles of bricks and stones and twisted metals, buckets. Is that a wartime bucket? Who knows? Could well be. Don't think these bottles are old, but I'm going to have a look. A wine bottle. That's not old. And that's not old either. Well, that was the wrong path altogether, even though there were buildings down there, just the edge of the site really. This was what I was looking for. Right, air raid shelters. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. I'll do the one on the right. Barred up. It wasn't barred up last time I came here. The dark one. Very clean. It was last time I was here, when you could walk into here. The escape hatch has escaped and fallen off. Don't know what's up there now, if that's not up there. It's got a concrete slab on it now. Right, let's go and make sense of the other one if we can. I don't expect there to be anything different there. There's the escape hatch end. I think these are probably barred up as much as anything because they're potentially dangerous, more than potentially dangerous if they were to collapse, although to be honest they're made not to collapse. On the square roofed versions. I think you'd have to seriously attempt to knock these down with something pretty aggressive to bring them down if they were made to last. When I first came here about 20 years ago, I was fascinated by this site in front of me. You may not be able to make it out now because it really is disappearing. This just will not be around. In 10 years' time it really is being buried now, but you can probably just see this concrete in it, and it's got a rounded edge, right, very distinctly rounded edge. When I first found this, there was nothing on it. It was pure concrete. You could see the whole thing. Basically, this whole area was one great big circular piece of concrete, and I thought, what on earth is that? And it's stated on the air ministry plan that it's an SWP, which is a static water pool. But static water pools traditionally are dug out of the ground. We saw one when we first started this video. They're square pits full of water, presumably to support fire personnel should there be a fire on the site. But this clearly wasn't that. It was a circular concrete base. I found out on Facebook of all places about 2-3 months ago exactly what it was. I'll put the picture up. and it was indeed a static water pool, but it wasn't a dug out of the ground version. It was actually a metal tank full of water. So it was an SWP, and it's the only one I've ever seen that wasn't dug out of the ground. It actually sat in a metal tank on this circular base, but as I say, you can't really see the circular base anymore. You're just going to have to trust me. But it's there. I could kick this all about with my boot, but I'd be absolutely plastered. But yeah, static water pool. We're just walking off down the main path of the site now. You would have 3 or 4 airmen's quarters lined up. Busy site, and I would imagine probably quite a popular one, as it was right next to the communal site and also close to the airfield, not too far to walk or cycle. Purely for completeness, there used to be a path that would travel pretty much straight down the centre of this picture into the distance, into the trees there, about 200 metres further along. You had the sewage farm. Every one of these sites had its own sewage farm. There's nothing there. I've been before, I've looked at aerial maps, nothing survives, not surprisingly. All the filter beds and whatever have gone. There used to be one building, I think a tool shed of some sort, but that's no longer there. There's nothing to see. But as I say, for completeness, yeah, there was a path that went straight down the centre of this one to the glory of the sewage farm. Now, I've walked around here many times for different reasons. Nature walks. Never knew there was a wartime site here, but Site 4, which is the last one on this tour, Site 4 is somewhere on the left. Supposedly, unless whoever drew up the plans was going nuts, there isn't even a path here now that matches with the one on the Air Ministry plan, but it's over here somewhere. I'm going to go through there and try and find it. It's got to be done really. Let's find a way in. Let me find something. Here we go. There's pretty established pine trees here. It's kind of hard to imagine that there was anything here. We're going to have a look. This don't look right to me. Nothing, it don't look right, does it? No. I'm either in the wrong place or site number 4 never actually materialised. These trees have been here too long. Let's keep looking. Well, that's it. Quite a trek. I can't find site 4. That's a mystery to me. I was in the right spot. I had all my bearings right on that one. There's just nothing there at all, so it's a bit of a curiosity, but we did the rest. That is what it is really. There's no buildings here, there's nothing too exciting to go into apart from air raid shelters, but the foundations are still there. I don't know how many years it's got left before even they disappear, and you'd have to dig pretty deep to find them, but still fascinating. This is a beautiful, beautiful wood, it's very peaceful, very quiet. And yet in amongst it all there is this collection of airfield buildings, and I think, you know, people would be astonished that don't know about these sites to believe that 80 years ago this was a very, very lively site full of air personnel, brave air personnel, with all sorts going on, people walking around, cycling around, dining halls, cinemas and whatever. Such a contradiction really, compared with what it is now. It's fantastic. If I had my way, I'd come out with a shovel and a broom, clean off all of those foundations, put a little sign up to explain what they are. I'm sure people would find it fascinating, but Mother Nature will make her own decisions on this one, and yeah, as I say, it'll all be lost. But those are the dispersed sites of Kings Cliffe Airfield, and worth coming out and having a look. It's a good excuse to come for a nice walk any time of the year, and I hope today's video might give you some idea where to go to and where to look.